Hi lovelies, welcome back to the channel Style by C. Thank you so much for stopping by. To our returning subscribers, you guys are so amazing. Today's tutorial we'll learn how to cut this beautiful keyhole bustier neckline. To subscribe and stay tuned for more. Thank you. So guys, the first thing we're going to be marking is our basic body. That's the first thing we're going to go ahead and do. So I'm working with 16 inches and I'm going to be adding extra half an inch to it, making it 16 and a half inches. So now this is my start point and that's where my shoulder measurement is going to be. Then 1 inch down from that point for my shoulder slope. Then I'm going to divide my bust measurement by 6 and I'm going to be adding half an inch to it to get my armhole stroke chest line point. Alright. Then the next thing is 3 inches for my neck holes. Now I'm going to connect the dots together. Alright, having done this, to create my armhole curve, I'll go ahead and divide my armhole measurements by 2. From that point, I'll place back my measurements. This is my shoulder measurement. Then I'm going to come in by half an inch. Creating the curve. But before this, I'll mark my bust measurements. Whatever you have as a bust measurement, go ahead and insert it. So this is what I have. The next thing I'm going to go ahead to mark now is my bust point, which is at 10 inches. My under bust, which is at 13 inches. Then I'm going to make a straight through on each point. So having done this, I'll go ahead and label it. This is C, chest line. B, bust point. U, under bust, half or W, my half length or my waistline. Alright. Now the next thing we'll do is we'll mark our nipple to nipple measurements on our bust points, on our under bust, and on our waistline. Connect the dots together. Then the next thing to do is, from this point I'm going to go out by 1.25 inches. I will do this on my under bust and on my waistline. Then inwards I'm going to come in by 1 inch, 1 inch. Then I'll connect the points together. Having done this now, the next thing to do is I'm going to be connecting my bust point to my under bust using a curved rule. Just watch closely what I'm doing. This is what I have here. Alright, now I'm going to divide my shoulder slope into 2 to get the midpoint. Then from this point I'm going to connect it to my bust point. This is what we have. Alright, now the next thing to do is to divide your bust and your bust point and under bust. What you have there, measure it. I have 3 inches. So now we want to determine our new chest line. Okay, so either you go up from your bust point, you place your 3 inches and go up by, like from your bust point you place your tape at 3, then mark your new chest line, or you decide to half of it from your chest line, you go up. Or better still, you can use 6 inches from the shoulder line, you can use 7 inches, you can use 8 inches, depending on how you want yours to be. But for the case of this tutorial, I'm going to be dividing my bust point and under bust measurement by 2, and I'm going to come up with what I have. So I have 1.5 inches. That is my new chest line. I'm going to go ahead and make a rule across. Now, what next should we do? We're going to be tightening our over bust. I'm going to go ahead and mark 0.75 inches on both sides, then connect it to my bust point, to the bust point. So this is what I have. All right, now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to measure what I have here. I have 1.5 inches. I'm adding it back to this piece, plus have an inch seam allowance. All right, then what I have here, I have 0.75 inches. I'm adding it here, plus 1 inch seam allowance. The same thing I did here, I'm going to also do it at my waist measurement. I have 7 inches for my waist measurement. Then I'm going to measure what I have here, 2.25. Add it back to your pattern paper, plus 1 inch stitching allowance. Okay, now this is not our actual body seam allowance. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add 2 inches for my seam allowance. Then I'm going to connect the points together. This is what I have. Then I'm also going to make a rule here. Then go ahead and create my new armhole from this point. That is to say, this armhole here is being dissolved. Now the next thing we are going to do is we're going to be creating our neckline. All right, so the neckline we're going to be working with, first of all, is going to be a V neckline. So from this neck depth now, I'm going to be making a V neckline to my new chest line. This is what I have. All right, then the next thing to do is from this center point now, or better still, I'm going to divide what I have left here. I have 7.5 inches. I'm going to get the midpoint of what I have here. So this is where the midpoint lies. From this point now, I'm going to go up by 3 inches. This is my new distance. Or better say, let's cut out this pattern so it will not be very confusing. So I want to cut out this point first, then we'll continue with the neck piece area. So I will not be confused. So this is what we have for the neck area. Now the next thing to do is I'm going to go ahead and make a V cut shape. All right, now from this center point, I'm going to be marking 2 inches on both sides of it. So from that 2 inches, I'm going to go up to create that V shape I want. So this is what I have. But if you feel like, or I felt like this V cutout shape is too low, what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the length of what I have here at this point. Let's say by 4.5 inches. I just felt like I'm not comfortable with it. It's too low. So that's why I increased it. So I'm going to go ahead and recreate my V shape. So this is what we have now. You either cut on the first one or on the second one. The choice is totally yours. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut this piece out. So this is the first opening. Then the second piece is going to be from this point. I'm also going to be cutting it out. So this is what I have. This is what my sorry about this. This is what the upper parts of my blouse will look like. Then for this piece, we are going to also go ahead and slit it open. So this is what I'm going to do. So this is what we have. This is what it looks like. And this is for our front piece. So now, this is what it's going to be looking like. Alright. I don't know if it is very clear there. Having done this now, we'll transfer this piece to our fabric. Then for the back piece, I'm just going to go for the regular normal back piece we do make. Alright, so I have 1.5 inches for my zipper allowance. Then I'm going to go ahead and mark my shoulder measurements, which is 8. 1 inch down for my shoulder slope. My armhole measurements. Alright, stroke my chest line. Then the neck width is 3 inches. I'm going to connect it to my shoulder slope. From this point now, come down by divide it by 2. Get the midpoint. Come in by 1/2 inch. Shit, man. Got the midpoint. Came in by 1/2 inch. Then I'm going to connect it to from my shoulder slope to that 1/2 inch to create my armhole curve. Then mark my bust measurements. Then I'm going to add my seam allowance. Then on my waistline, I'll also do the same thing. Then I'm going to connect these two together. Alright, then the neck width, I'm going to be using 2 inches for my neck depth, sorry. Then I'm going to curve it. Then cut it out. The next thing I'm going ahead to do is I'm going to be cutting a lining for this. Same for my front piece. Okay, I'm also going to go ahead and cut out a lining for it. One thing I usually do on my fabric or my back piece after cutting is I mark where my bust palm or nipple point is. Like I have 4 inches, so I'm going to mark 4 inches. Then I'm going to give it a notch. So when I'm stitching on my dart, it's going to be very easy for me to locate it. So this is what I have for my back piece. For the skirt part, it's just a regular skirt to cut. That's just where I'm going to go ahead to cut it. Alright. So guys, now I want to cut out our upper piece, the one that is having the V shape neckline. Alright. Now I added extra 1/2 inch to the bottom part of my piece. Okay, because I'm going to be joining it, so that's why I added extra 1/2 inch to it. So I'm going ahead to cut this piece out. So now when I'm done with this, the next thing to do is to cut this another piece, so it's going to be double. So I'm going to be using this material as a lining, okay, for this piece. Then I'm also going to iron an interface to it. I'm going to be using an airstay on it. All right, so this is what I have. I'm going to be cutting out another piece for this. So the next thing we're going to be cutting out is our sleeve. I'm going to be working with 15 inches, both my seam allowance and my sleeve length. Okay, I have that 11 inches. It will not be enough, so I'm going to adjust my fabric. So now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be making my sleeve. First of all, I'll mark 3 inches because this is going to have, there's a kind of a shape it's going to have on the upper part. So this 3 inches first, then from there I'm going to mark 4 inches for my biceps. All right, so this is where I'm going to be putting my bust measurement. So my bust measurement is plus seam allowance. I'm going to be having, let me mark 12 inches here. Now watch closely what I'm going to do. Like, it has a high-end cappy sleeve. All right, that's why I added extra. I marked 3 inches up here first. Then I'm going to go ahead and mark 11 inches here. So I worked with 13 by 11. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut this piece out. You're also going to cut out a lining piece that is going to look exactly like this. Okay. So this one is just for one piece. I'm going to be using this to cut out another piece. All right, so now it depends on, if you want it more bigger, then you go ahead and add more sleeve distance to it at this bottom part, but I think this 11 inches is okay for me. At this point now, I'm gonna head to transfer my pattern pieces to my fabric, and this is what I have. This is my bustier, and the other one is my keyhole. So now I'm going to be turning it out, join them together, then go ahead and turn it out to the lining. Note, you can decide to run a stitch on top of your bustier lines to create casing for your boning, but for this tutorial I'm not using any bone. I'm not inserting any bone to mine. I'm just sewing it that way. Okay, and another thing is I used a stiffener, an stay on my fabric to give it that thickness that you are seeing. All right, then I'm going to go ahead and turn out my keyhole with my other piece. Okay, I corded two. I'm going to be turning it out the other piece. All right, then this is for my back pieces. I've gone ahead to turn it out with lining. This is what I have. Now I'm going to be joining it to the skirt part of my back piece. All right, after joining it, I will go ahead and run a stitch for my dart. Okay, at this point now I've gone ahead to turn out my keyhole and I've ironed it down. This is what it looks like. This is what I have. Now I'm going to be placing it on my bustier side by side. Find the center point, place it side by side. Please note that this part is going to be on the armhole area. Okay, this side now, the same thing with this other side. Then I'm going to be turning it out with my lining piece. So after turning it out, this is what it looks like. This is what my keyhole looks like. Now I'm going to be joining this bustier part to the skirt part of my gown. So this is what I have. I'm going to go ahead and join it center to center. When I'm done, I will shape my dress. Okay, when I'm done, we'll talk about the next step. So guys, the next thing I'm going to be doing now is to join the two shoulders together. So this is my front piece. So I'm going to go ahead now and join my two shoulders together. When I'm done, I'll stitch the side of the gown. Like I'll go ahead and shape my gown. Alright. So guys, this is our lining. This is our main fabric. I've gone ahead to use an A stay on it. Please, I recommend if you want to get that effect, like the one on the picture, they used either a peplum stay or a collar stay to make it more stiff. This paper stay I'm using for this one now is not that strong, okay? But if you want yours to like come out sophisticated, please work with a peplum stay or a collar stay. So now what am I going to do? I'm going to place these two this way. All right, and run a stitch. I'm going to go ahead, I placed folded it into two. Then from this point in, I'm going to go ahead and stitch on the allowance, okay, on the side. That's what I'm going to do now. Then I'll turn it out. So guys, I've gone ahead to run a stitch on it. Now we're going to be turning this piece out. So after turning it out, this is what it looks like. This is what we have. And I'm going to go ahead and iron it down. If there's any excesses at the top, I'm going to trim it off. The next thing I'm going to go ahead to do after trimming off my excesses is to join this my sleeve to my dress. Okay, I'm going to be pleating it so I to be able to go around my sleeve, like everything will be able to contain. Sorry, I did that off the camera. Thank you so much. This is the final result of what we have. Thank you so much for sticking by with us. Do subscribe, share and comment.